Hi there, Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. Today in the Human Design Weather, we're going to be talking about the Gate 42, which is typically called the Gate of Completions. Okay, so with the Sun in Gate 42, which started today around midday, April 10th, and runs until April 16th, we've got the 42 coming off the bottom of the sacral right here, and it's joined with the Earth in Gate 32, which is the Gate of Duration. It's all about starting a business, basically. And so the 32 comes off the bottom of the spleen here, and the 42 is off the bottom of the sacral. So again, we start the week with the 2343 between the ajna and the throat being defined with the nodes. And we've got the channel 360, which is defined until Tuesday. It's defining the sacral and the root, so we'll have those in for a few more days. And then the rest of the week, it'll be just the ajna and the throat again. And so it should be relatively easygoing in terms of that channel. So we've got the Gate 42, which is called increase or growth or completions. It's basically getting to the end of a cycle, right? It's getting to the end. This the 53, 42 channel from the root to the sacral is the channel of cycles. And it's basically getting to the end of a cycle. So it's increase or growth or finishing up or completions. And so they say it's the expansion of the resources which maximize the development of full potential. And in line 5, they actually, which is kind of the epitome of it, they say that growth is self-fulfilling and naturally leads to influence. So basically, when you're growing something or growing a business, for example, and it's interesting that it's attached to 32, which is all about having a business, and it's always attached to those. So whenever that's in somebody's incarnation cross, it's always going to, if they have the 32 or the 42, they're always going to run together. The incarnation crosses this week are the cross of Maya, completion and limitation. And in quantum human design, we call this the gate of conclusion. And so the Gate 32, called duration or continuity in the original I Ching, which is part of the business circuit, the only thing which endures is change. And also the instinctive awareness to accept change and transformation. So this is about having a business, being in business, having the trials and tribulations of a business, right? But still being able to get through it and to continue on. And that's why they call it duration. So it's really about, kind of the courage to have a business, to face your fears, whether it's the fear of success or the fear of failure or anything in between, and keep going. And in the gene keys, failure is the shadow, preservation is the gift, and veneration is the CD. In quantum human design, it's called endurance. And so when we go to the gene keys, for the gene key 42, the shadow is expectation. And this is about having expectations and holding on to the expectations. Eventually, you can let go of the expectations, and that's when it leads to the gift of detachment. And eventually, finally, you get to celebration in the CD because you let go of all of that basically earthly attachment and, kind of awakened to a higher vibration. In the graphic, Richard says celebration is the direct manifestation of true awakening. And so when you get to that awakened state, he said, then you'll be celebrating. So interestingly, the repressive version of the shadow here is called grasping. It's almost like grasping at straws. It's like grasping at those expectations and being the victim of those expectations and really fearing change, fearing that there'll be changes, right? You're kind of grasping and holding on to the status quo and expecting things not to change, which really is not reality, right? And then the reactive version is flaky, literally being flaky, flaky in terms of not ever being able to complete anything because you don't trust it. You don't trust life. You don't trust anything. You don't trust the universe. You don't trust that you'll be taken care of. And that's all part of this, having those expectations and expecting things to happen the way you want them to, as opposed to looking at reality and just being in the present moment and appreciating the now, right? So he says the true purpose of expectation and disappointment is to teach us the rare art of letting go. So if we can let go of those expectations, then we'll have a much better chance of enjoying what we have, right? So Richard also says whether your expectation is optimistic or pessimistic, it narrows your field of vision and closes down the limitless potential that exists in each present moment. So much better to be in the present moment, to be enjoying life, to be kind of savoring the moment and walking in each moment without expectation, or at least not being the victim of the expectation, not be, working with the expectations as opposed to letting them work against you. So we've got a number of different personalities this week, including Thomas Jefferson, Andy Garcia, David Letterman, the painter Raphael, Steven Seagal, Emma Watson, Julie Christie, and the one we're going to take a look at in depth today is the chart of Garry Kasparov, who has a birthday on April 13th. He'll be turning 59 years old. He was born in Azerbaijan, which was at that point part of the Soviet Union. So he was considered and always competed as a Russian. He's a 3-5 projector with the right angle cross of the Maya. And as you can see, he does have the 42 up in the sun and the 32 in the earth. He does have the 3-5 profile, and he is a projector. So projector because of the open sacral and the open throat. And with this 3-5, he is somebody who's always experimenting, right? He's always experimenting with the 3, the experiential learner, and with the 5, he's a bit of a heretic. So we've got the martyr heretic, basically, is what we call the profile here. He was always trying new things, checking out new things. He was, besides a chess grandmaster, he's also a writer. He's got a number of books, and he's become a political activist. And the reason I picked him out is because I actually saw him on television recently with a number of different interviews. Azerbaijan was part of the Soviet Union when he was born, so he was considered part of the Soviet Union, and played for the Soviet Union. So as a chess grandmaster, he won quite a few tournaments, as you probably heard, in the 80s and 90s. And then he has become a political activist. He's now chairman of the Human Rights Foundation, and also started his own company called Renew, or his own not-for-profit called Renew Democratic Initiative, based in the U.S., both of them based in the U.S. And I believe he's living here now as well. He has been a Croatian citizen most recently, but is living in the U.S. And so he's become a political activist in favor of Ukraine, in favor of democracy, in favor of peace, and definitely speaking against Putin and Russia and what's going on there. So I'll just point out a few things in his chart that make it easy to see why. Well, first of all, you notice that he has the head and the ajna defined, but then a lot of openness in here. The root and the solar plexus defined. Everything else is open. So he's got 5 centers open and 4 defined. That's a lot of openness. So he's taking in people's sacral energy, all their fears. He's taking in the will and the ego of others. He's able to understand people at a very deep level, and he's able to speak in a way that can be heard when he's invited to speak. He's a very wise projector, right? All projectors are wise. They're here to direct us. They're here to help us live our lives. For the rest of us who are running around as generators, we need some help. And so with this 63.4 as one of his channels, it's all about logic. Not surprising, as a grandmaster in chess, that he would have this entire channel of logic, as well as the other 2 gates here in the head, the 61 and the 64. So he's basically taking in information in ways that are logical or abstract, or in the middle, holistic. So he's taking in information in a lot of different ways and coming up with possible answers. He also has the 62, which is all about details, and the 56, which is about storytelling. I suspect that the details, which actually shows up twice in his chart, it's here. And 61. So he's got a number of these gates in his chart that are that help, right? That help with the thinking process. 33 is all about privacy. The 1 is making a creative contribution to the earth in some way. And I think that's probably what's driven him now, after 50 years old, to become someone who is more political in his thinking than previously, or at least toward democracy and peace than it had been previously. He does have the love of spirit here. That could be helping to move him forward in his political activism. He has the gate 5, which is all about rhythms and patterns. 27, that's an interesting one, because that's all about responsibility. And it definitely is a tribal energy. Projectors don't usually have too much here in the defense circuit, which is all about tribal energy and keeping the family together, or keeping cultures together. But he does have both the 27, which is all about responsibility, and he has the 59 here, which is all about sexuality and intimacy, but it's also about keeping people together and drawing them in. He's got the 9 down here, no surprise there, right? As a grand chess master, he definitely had focus. And he's got this 1949, which is also very tribal. So very tribal energy. It's about sensitivity and then principles. So he is acting on his principles now as he moves forward with this activism that he's gotten involved in. 41 is all about creativity. He's got that 32, which does help him in business with starting a not-for-profit, for example. And then he's got the gate 18, which is actually up in his moon. So he is motivated to correct and improve things, definitely. And the other moon gate, which motivates him, is 5, which is all about consistency and patterns. So quite a lot of different types of gates there, yes. And then in terms of channels, he's got one that's collective and one that's tribal. So he's here to be about the tribe, but working it from the outside, basically. He's not somebody who's, as much as, I kind of expected to see a very individual chart, but it's not necessarily that. It's much more, well, it is collective here, and then tribal energy here in this, around the sacral. And of course, he's got that 42, which urges him to complete things, and the gate 60, which is all about evolution and growth. So he's here to make a difference, and he's here to help us. He's here to help people to create peace and democracy. And you can see it too in the Chiron. His Chiron is in the 37. That's peace and harmony. He's driven to teach and educate and empower people after 50 years old with this Chiron return theme to move toward peace and harmony. And the 63 is to do it in a logical way. So he had that in his chart already. He didn't have the 37, but he's moving forward in a logical way to bring people to peace and harmony. So it's no doubt that he's, in this position at this, later stage in his life. But he's apparently doing it with gusto. And so I applaud him for that. So happy birthday, Garry, on the 13th. And I hope that you all have a great week. Look to see if there's anything that you need to complete. I know there's a few things I need to complete before the Easter holidays. And so I hope you get to do that. And I hope mine will get finished too. So have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.